Other thing I want to mention about Kalen DeBoer, and this is something that may be surprising to some people, and I tweeted it out a couple of days ago, but it's not something that I remember hearing at all. But I heard it mentioned on a podcast, and I want to let me pull up my tweet so that I make sure I give credit to the correct podcast that DeBoer was on. So he was on Next Up with Adam Brenneman, and he was being interviewed kind of about the transition from Washington over to Alabama and talking about, some things he had implemented. And one of the things he talked about implementing was that they're going to be moving to morning practices. And the reason I just bring this up is, for those of you that are unaware, I was in communications. I was a sports PR major at Alabama, so I had quite a few classes with athletes. Jalen Hurts was in quite a few of my classes. Damian Harris, Josh Jacobs, Mac Jones. It was not uncommon for me to see athletes in my classes, especially if I had a morning class. And it was always known that, like, if not if you wanted, but if there was going to be an athlete in your class, especially a football player, it was going to have to be a morning class, because after about noon, they would go get lunch and then they would have practice. And so they would have practice and they would have team meetings and workouts and all these, they had workouts in the mornings, but they would have all these things going on, right? And so it was just very well known that if a football player was going to be in your class, you had to have that class in the morning. So I think it's very unique that DeBoer is going to morning practices. I think that in the Alabama heat, I think that that's potentially going to do very well because obviously they have the conditioning staff that's going to have the guys conditioned. I think that having morning practices potentially is going to be something that the guys are really going to enjoy because for anybody that has never lived in Alabama or never lived in the South with this level of humidity, the afternoons in the South in that 100-degree heat is absolutely a nightmare. So I think that morning practices is something that the guys are really going to enjoy. And another thing that I heard, and so this is a comment that I was speaking to, actually a former high school teacher of mine. He's a football coach and has gone to many of the Saban camps, as well as he went to DeBoer's camp this year. He said that he felt like some of the staff and some of the people around the program were just a little lighter. And he said he kind of attributed it to in Saban's camps and the way that Saban was, some coaches and just people around the program were a little on edge, worried that if they did something wrong, Saban may snap and scream at you or berate you or whatever because of the excellence he demanded. And it just felt like, not to say DeBoer doesn't demand excellence, because that's not at all what it is, but that his style of reprimanding people or getting the best out of his people is obviously much different than Saban's. That's been well documented, about his not wanting to cuss, not to say that he can't or doesn't, but, not trying to have that be his go-to, not trying to just lose his cool. That's something that's kind of been well documented. And from my understanding and what I heard from the person that I spoke to, it sounded like DeBoer, almost just has a lightness that his staff and the people around the program are feeling as it relates to how he is coaching and how he is doing everything. And so that's trickling down even to his high school camps, to, just the people around the program. And so my gut says, that's a big reason why somebody like a Caden Proctor potentially comes back. You have these guys where potentially some guys that maybe didn't love the way that Saban coached. Obviously, you love the result, but maybe you don't like the means to get to the end. I think that DeBoer is coming about it in a little bit different way. I know there was a comment by one of the linemen saying, I actually follow DeBoer on Snapchat. It's the first time I've ever had a coach on Snapchat. It's just, DeBoer's on Twitter. It's not to say that he's somebody that's going to be super active in all these things, but it really feels like DeBoer is, a new age coach and is somebody that is really connecting with his players. And from everything that we're hearing coming out of practice and obviously the recruiting that we started, and we're talking about in this episode, it seems to be coming to fruition and seems to be doing really, really well. So that's what I wanted to talk about when it comes to a football perspective. My plan is to, once everything is done, I probably will potentially see if I can get a guest to come on and talk about the recruiting class, who they really, really like. Admittedly, as you probably have noticed, I do, some level of research when it comes to recruiting, but I am not the recruiting person, especially when it comes to football. There's just so many guys. The way the football classes work, I'm just not somebody that's super engaged and super involved when it comes into that. So I would be interested in seeing, I'm going to reach out to a couple of people and see if I can have somebody come on and discuss that with me and talk about who they think some of their top people are in this class and who they're maybe even looking forward to the class to come. And then I'll also plan to do a little bit of a what to look forward to for this upcoming season as it pertains to potential, rough ideas of starting lineups, rough ideas of, who's going to be trotting out there in game one. So if you are interested in that, please like and subscribe. Like I said, that information is going to be coming out here on YouTube. And I also, after I get done with the basketball write-ups, my plan is to, finish. I'm going to kind of work on the basketball write-ups and just have them all scheduled out. And then I'm going to work on some football write-ups and get those scheduled out as well. Maybe some, if nothing else, some like position group kind of breakdowns of, what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, and, some key takeaways for these groups. So if you are interested, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel here or over on Substack. I do really appreciate all of the support. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening, watching, and subscribing. And if you are interested, please stay tuned for the next one. Peace.